Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Unstoppable Success. This is a podcast where we hear from influential people, leaders, and professionals that are out there being unstoppable, and they're going to share their tips, insights on how you can be unstoppable too. I'm your host, Jaclyn Strominger, and today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Brandon Day to Unstoppable Success. Let me tell you a little bit about Brandon. Actually, he is a two-time national champion, former All-American linebacker. Although you don't look like you're big enough to be a linebacker, but that's another story. And someone who's been featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated, but his story doesn't stop on the field. After years of battling chronic pain and the mental grind that comes with pushing your body to the limit, Brandon has become obsessed with understanding what drives human performance, not just in sports, but in life and in business, making him unstoppable. So now he is a high performance coach and the founder, and I'm going to change it to the evolved athlete because what you have in there, I think, is changed. And a unique system that combines applied neuroscience and flow state coaching to help elite performers break through plateaus, eliminate pain, and unlock their peak physical and cognitive potential. And he works with athletes, business owners, and entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for good enough. That's helping make everybody unstoppable. So welcome, Brandon.
Nice. Thanks, Jacqueline. Great to be
Uh,
here.
all right, so I have to ask, I mean, you know, being an athlete and pushing yourself creates there's a certain level of mental toughness that comes with that, and I would say at a young age. So
Mhm.
where do you think that came for you? Because you mean you were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, your team did amazing. Where did it come from?
Well, I think, like you said, I think it was uh, instilled in me as a very young boy. Even I can remember going all the way back to just playing with my dad in the yard, playing shooting hoops or playing some football in the yard or something, or out hitting balls, some baseball. Just this idea that you get knocked down, you get back up, you keep going, right? You got a little boo boo. That's okay. You'll be all right. Let's get up. Let's keep playing. Like I think as far back as I can remember, um, he was training me to overcome adversity.
Hmm.
So I think that was huge.
Right.
And then the coaches that came along the way, they were always instilling this idea of mind over matter, mental toughness. And by the way, yeah, that was a big part of my success, but also a big part of my downfall, right?
About the downfall. So success, and then there's the drop.
Yeah. So part of it was that idea of, instilling this idea of mental toughness. It can get confused with a less than ideal idea of pushing through pain, constantly grinding and burning yourself out, which is what happened to me eventually. I was able to keep it up pretty well as a young person, but eventually it started to catch up with me. The negative part of that ideal of no pain, no gain, always push through, keep grinding. And that's, a huge part of the hustle culture these days. And a lot of my clients that come to me, that's their main problem, right? And so I experienced that firsthand, and um, I I'm so grateful for all my success and for this miraculous thing to happen of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And why I'm so grateful for it is not what you might think, which is like, oh yeah, all this adoration. Everyone was like love bombing me, like you're so cool. You're on the phone book. I was also on the phone book in my hometown, which is a pretty big deal, you know?
Next would be the Wheaties box.
Yeah, that's the only one I didn't get. I got the phone book and SI, but not the Wheaties box. There's still time. There's still time.
Still fun.
But that happening to me, all that stuff was cool, but it really actually just highlighted these deep insecurities that I felt around my own worth and deserving to be on that. I always thought that I didn't really deserve it. Like it was, oh, I was just lucky. Like so many other people work so much harder than me that are more deserving to be on that thing. And it highlighted this like internal struggle that I had felt. And so what did I do except to compensate with what I knew how to do, which was just grind harder to try to cover it up with more accomplishments. And it just led to this, like, it led to burnout. It led to burnout and more chronic pain, right? Because, from a brain perspective, what is pain but a signal that something's off? It's an action signal to get you to change something. And if you don't listen to it, it just gets louder and louder and louder.
Right.
And so when you keep continuing to grind and grind and grind and push harder, then eventually something's got to give. And so that's kind of that darker side. I sometimes say that the Sports Illustrated or any major success like that, the brightest light can create the darkest shadow. So you gotta, like, it forced me to deal with that stuff, which is why I'm so grateful for all of it. Every aspect, the good, the bad, the ugly. It was
Right.
all really just a catalyst for me to go on this journey that has brought me to where I am now, running this business with the tools and techniques that I took, going on 20 years now, to sift through and make a lot of mistakes and kind of, beat to my own drum and find my own path and discover these techniques that are just they're not super mainstream yet, but they made all the difference for me. And so if it had not been for that earlier success and then the subsequent kind of spiral downward, I wouldn't have been able to go on this journey. So yeah, nothing but gratitude from me.
No, well, I love that. And it's true. Like there's sometimes success, and I think a lot of people feel this way. They get to a certain point in their career, they might be the CEO of a company, and you think imposter syndrome. Like why me? Like how? Like how did I get, how? And so many people have that, and it comes out in so many different ways. Um, so I'm curious now. So with what you're doing, I mean, obviously pain and finding ways to relieve pain, but you just mentioned there are some things that are not necessarily mainstream that may be becoming mainstream that have helped you recover and do do you better.
Yeah.
You know, so what are some of those?
Yeah, there's really two huge turning points in my journey because, with the start of my journey, which was the big peak, the success and the Sports Illustrated cover, national championships and all that. When college football ended for me, I really didn't have a lot planned. I was just riding the ride, and it was a great time. So I wasn't worrying about the future. I'll figure it out. I always do. So I was kind of left. What I didn't realize was going to happen was that I was going to lose not just the game, but much more. I was going to lose my identity
Mm.
as an athlete and a winner and a big success. Like all that was wrapped up in my identity as a football player, as an athlete, as a success, all just kind of like ripped away. If you went from the top of the ladder to the bottom of the heap, right? And I didn't really plan for that. And I didn't have anything lined up job-wise, except that I knew I didn't really want to go down the chosen path. Like I had all these friends going into like medical device sales or going to PT school or going to get their MD, whatever. I was just like, man, it just doesn't feel like me at the moment. So I was really lost, and it was pretty instant. And the thing about football in America is you don't really get to go play pickup games after you're done. You're done, right? At least not tackle. Like you go play
Right.
flag football, but it's just not quite the same. So I also lost access to a big stress relief and a big outlet for some, underlying anger issues that I'd been hanging around with that were very easily dealt with on a football field, right? But more than anything, what I learned many years later was that I lost access to this incredibly enjoyable and healing state of consciousness called flow states. And it was just ripped right away from me. And I had no idea what I had really lost, and I had no idea how to get back there with that consistency that I had had almost daily. So I was kind of up, the creek without a paddle. And I got into making films as an actor and then a producer, and that was wonderful. Incredible experience. Lasted for a few years, but then I was kind of just like wandering around in there. And during that time, I was dealing with a lot of chronic pain, chronic physical pain from many years, having a car accident every day. So when I got done with the film stuff, I was at a really low point in my mental health. Substance abuse was higher because I was self-medicating for the chronic pain and for this loss of identity, for me thinking and kind of seeing myself as the guy on the cover of Sports Illustrated and expecting to be at that level of success always because that's what other people expected of me, or so I thought. And so like this version of myself in my mind and what I was currently experiencing, like waking up on a deflated air mattress in Los Angeles where nobody cared about, the guy at the, bottom of the heap, was just such a cognitive dissonance that it just like created like a swarm of mental health issues that I again masked with booze and cannabis and whatever else. And so I kind of hit a rock bottom and decided that this is not really ideal for me right now. I think I'm built for something a little more than this. So let's go maybe make a change and try to find something new. So I just kind of started my journey and did what I knew best, which was I studied pre-physical therapy and I kind of knew how to work out, from football. So I'm like, I'll just try to start exercising again. Let's just take it one step at a time. And that led me down the road of becoming a personal trainer just to make some extra cash. Started working with people that were in pain as well and like helping them a little bit here and there. I had a guy freshly diagnosed with Parkinson's and like talk about imposter syndrome. I was like, somebody want to take the reins here? I can't work with this guy. Like I'm gonna screw him up worse or something. And I had a wonderful mentor, which is a theme for me. Incredible mentors at the perfect time, right? And he said, like most of the best mentors do, stop it. You're fine. You know what you're doing, just go do it. I was like, okay. His confidence in me gave me enough confidence to go and try. And I helped him out a lot. And so that was kind of like wow, okay, this is cool. I like helping people. So I went down that path. I got a master's degree in kinesiology. I studied all the traditional methods of helping people, what I would call below the neck methods. And some of them would help, and I'd get pretty good results with clients and stuff. But I personally was still dealing with chronic pain every single day. And I'd get a little bit of relief, and then it would always come back. So I'm like, there's something is not right. There's a missing piece somewhere. The first missing piece was I discovered the work of a guy named Steven Kotler. I read his first book on flow called The Rise of Superman, where he followed action adventure sport athletes around for many, many years, just documenting how they were accomplishing impossible feats like over and over and over again, and what was driving them to do these like crazy things, and like Alex Honnold, if you're familiar with him, climbing up Yosemite with no ropes, right? Free soloing. And like, why? Why are you putting yourself in such danger? And the short answer is because it's access to flow states, which is the optimal state of consciousness where we feel and perform our best. This was the biggest light bulb moment in the world. I was like, that's it. That's what I've been missing. That's what I need to get back to. And so I shifted my mindset into, instead of thinking about making more money, instead of thinking about going out and winning another championship in something, just focus on finding flow. And as I tell my clients, like when you focus on that as the goal, then the outcome that you're looking for oftentimes will just take care of itself. Because now you're focusing on the process. Now you're focusing on being present, because flow requires all of you in the present moment. Distractions like pain will pull you out of it and they will block your access to flow, which I think is what a lot of people, in my experience, what a lot of people are struggling with, whether they're business leaders or high level athletes, or even, we can talk about what I define an athlete
Right.
is, but basically it's everyone. Everyone's an athlete, right? You're an athlete, I'm an athlete.
Right.
Um, some people are more mathletes, but they're
Right.
all have the same mindset and they all need to be trained and think about it the same way. So it doesn't matter who it is, like we all perform better when we have our focus and attention dialed into the present moment, so much so that everything else goes away. That's where we elevate ourselves to the next level and we reach our state of peak performance, which is a flow state. So I found that out, boom, just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I made everything about like finding flow in all the things that I do. And then a few years later, which that really changed a lot for me in finding more meaning in my life, getting back to, okay, finding where my identity kind of sits. I'm still an athlete, right? But now I just have these different sports. Like now my main sport is just trying to keep up with my 18-month-old triplets
Oh
because,
my God.
yeah,
Trip.
that's like running a marathon every friggin' day. It's
Oh my God.
insane.
Yeah. Triplets. I can't even
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah. So that's what training is about for me. That's my sport at the moment. My golf game, my pickleball game, my hiking, all of that is secondary and tertiary. It's not the primary priority right now. It's, just keeping up with them and also building a business to support our lifestyle. So, and that's everybody I work with. It's like, you may have been a competitive athlete in this thing, but now your priorities have probably shifted, right? But everyone benefits from making flow the goal and training like an athlete in your physical training and also in your brain training, which is the applied neurology aspect, which was the second major breakthrough in my own personal journey, was meeting my mentors very serendipitously at a wedding that I was officiating, and then joining their inaugural mentorship in applied neurology like 2 weeks later.
Oh.
And that just like opened the door. My chronic pain, once I started the study of applied neurology and understanding that, number one, pain is always an output from your brain. And when you know that, then anything can affect anything, right? I learned that a few tools that
Yeah.
just got rid of my pain instantly. And it would come back, but I had tools now. I had tools to get rid of that pain instantly, right? And to start to change and rewire my brain so that it did no longer choose pain as the signal to get my attention. And then you just get more access to flow states when you know how to set up the conditions correctly. And so, boom, get out of pain, get more access to flow, and then your life just kind of accelerates in a positive direction.
It's quite interesting because, so many there's so many different parts here. There's so many people right now who uh are get distracted. And so
Mm.
whether it's pain or a text or something, right? They get out of concentration. So, you know, they're not in that flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a disruptor happening. So how are you helping people get out of it? I mean, how do you keep, saying, you know,
Yeah, great question, because I think it's more important now than ever before to build the awareness. And that's the key, really. More than anything else is just the mindfulness and the awareness that you're being distracted and that your attention is constantly being battled for by so many outside forces. And that your brain is wired to go after that novelty and go after that dopamine spike. That's what it's wired for. So in a
right,
sense, your brain is actually fighting against you as well. But awareness sometimes alone can be curative in this. If you can be more mindful and more aware of that and where those attention grabbers are hiding, then you might find yourself in more flow just with that simple thing right there. But then we can take that many, many steps further and we can set up our environment so as to block distractions so we get more flow. We can play with the flow triggers so we can make sure that everything that we do has very clear goals. We know exactly what success looks like. We have immediate feedback so we know whether or not we're hitting those goals. And we have a challenge level that is dialed in to just outside of our current skill level. So we have to push ourselves. We have to stay completely focused on the goal and know what that goal is. And we have to get immediate feedback. Those are like the top triggers. And this is why sports are so rich with flow states, because they're all like built in. Like the goal is to hit the ball. You either hit it or you don't, right?
Right.
And if you're playing with somebody that is maybe a little bit better than you, you're more likely to get into flow. That's why we always say you always want to be like punching up. That's how you get better, because
Right.
that's how you access more flow states. And you can take these principles in sports and apply them to anything in life, including doing the dishes, folding your
Right.
laundry, right? There's areas of our life that we don't think about this at all, and we just end up staying completely distracted and checked out. But really, they're ripe
Right.
for creating presence and flow. And the sweet thing about flow is that flow begets flow. So when you get it in other areas, then you're more likely to get it in the areas that you really want it, like your work, like your relationships, like your sports, your athletic endeavors, whatever that may be.
It's interesting because, you know, I think of how much athletics and moving plays such a huge importance in in our lives,
Hmm.
right? One of my really good friends started a company, and it was all about helping kids move before school,
Mm,
right?
awesome.
Right. So it gets those kids already in a state of their mind moving open to learning because they've just moved their bodies, right? It's been documented, start your day with physical activity or some kind of movement to get your brain going so it's ready to, you know, take charge of the day.
Hmm.
And I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's, getting into that state of flow where you're working, you got to get your mind there. And a lot of times, and as you shared, being an athlete because you've moved your body helps you get there. And because you've got that small little goal, right? It might be, you know, whether you're um trying to hit a golf ball or you're trying to, get a basket in the basketball, play basketball. I mean, we need to get our brains ready for that. And then, you see it happen, like people just they they become so unconscious about with what they're doing in their actions while they're doing their, sport. They don't even realize that they've just done a three. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like they're just going.
Yeah. And you hit on something that's super important that most people miss, which is a lot of the things that we're trying to do in our daily lives, whether it's a complex skill in a sport or a complex task in our work, or just having like a meaningful conversation. If we talk about kids, like going straight from bed to breakfast to school is like, it's a big jump that's missing a lot of pieces. And what I actually mean by that is that all of that stuff that we're trying to do, the complex skills, the engaging with our schoolwork and stuff like that, requires our frontal lobe. This is the new big part of the brain in the front right here that does all our executive function, concentration, um, complex tasks, voluntary movement, right? All of that comes from up here. But the brain, and this is where the applied neurology kind of broke open a lot of the stuff for me and my clients, is understanding that that's not how the brain works. The brain needs to get blood flow And fuel, say, let's take the blood flow example, like comes from your heart. It's got to go up through the back, through the brain stem, which is where all of our automatic functions live, like heart rate and breathing. That's pretty important. We need resources there first, right?
Right.
And then to the top of the brain, and then from the back of the brain to the front. So the frontal lobe up here is the last place to get the blood flow and the activation and the resources in order to do those tasks. So when we start to try to go straight at that and we don't have proper fuel and resources there, it's not going to work very well,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
Like, it's no wonder all these kids have ADHD. It's because, like, their brain is just totally disconnected. So my mentor coined this framework he calls the ladder framework, which is just kind of stepping your way up to frontal lobe training at the very top. That's what we want. And I put flow states up there at the top, by the way, because this is the same ladder that we want to climb. And that's giving, we need our nervous system regulated first. We need good fuel and resources, so oxygen and glucose, good nutrition, hydration.
Yep.
Then we need movement. And that's what fills in the back of the brain. Movement, both of our body, our head, so our inner ear is waking up, and our eyes. Those are three big systems that activate the back of the brain. Then we can go and work on the front of the brain. And so this is just a neuroscientific way of describing exactly what you're saying. Like, go move
So move.
before you go into some like complex task or something where you really have to have a cognitive load put on you and you have to think. Go move your body first.
Right. It's crazy. It's so important. Movement is so important. So now I want to talk about something, obviously pain management. So
Yeah.
using your mind to overcome pain. We were kidding around beforehand, before we started recording, and I said I think that Tiger Woods actually probably needs to have a conversation with you because he's obviously must be in some kind of pain where he keeps getting into car accidents. Um,
Yeah.
so so how are you working with your, like the everyday, almost like the everyday athlete, for example, on pain? I'm thinking about even like students, like you know, um, I'll use my son for example, walking the golf course, right? Because he's played basketball and golf, and he's carrying the bag for 18 holes, and it sits on the wrong place. He ends up pulling a muscle in his leg, and
Mm.
he's now, then he literally has to stretch. He can't play for a few days. So how do you work with people to get that mental anguish out so they can keep performing?
Mm. That's a great question. And there's a lot of nuance in that. But I'll approach it kind of high level from two angles. Because you mentioned the mental anguish and the mindset kind of part of it,
Right.
both with your son and like being held out from the sport. That sucks. It's not fun when you have to sit out and like recover and rehab and heal. You want to get out there and play. And then you've got like the Tiger Woods example where there's a lot of pressure involved, and that's a whole different ball game, right? But from a mindset part of it, you got to understand, and again, sometimes awareness is enough to be curative in this respect, that when you're aware of what pain actually is, which it's just a signal from your brain to change something or to take some kind of action. Okay? In the case of a pulled muscle, that signal is to stop. Stop what you're
Right.
doing,
And
slow down so we don't make this worse. Yeah,
right.
and in a very acute sense, that's very important. We need that. Otherwise, we tear that thing right off the bone, and then we're unable to move at all. So it's a very important signal, and it should not be ignored. So the problem becomes, okay, in an acute phase and you still have to go play your sport like it's the championship game, all right, so we might actually try to work with your brain to try to turn down that signal at the risk of injuring you more. It's priorities at that point, right?
Right.
But most of what I'm working with and I see is chronic pain from injuries long gone and long healed that are still hanging around. And there's no really rhyme or reason for it that they can think of. It's like this stupid knee, like every time I go out running, it just starts to hurt, like 2 miles in, 5 miles in. Or like I get vertigo when I get up in the morning. What the heck is that about? Or, I got this stupid tendonitis and it just keeps coming back. Those type of chronic pains oftentimes are not due to injury. And in the Tiger Woods example, like he's had old injuries, but he might still have some pain hanging around. And especially at that level of athleticism, you're putting your body under a lot of stress over time. You can develop chronic pains. And if you don't understand why the brain is giving you that pain and deal with the actual threat, then it just hangs around and it becomes a state of mental annoyance at the very least, but it can block your flow states and it can become like a real liability to his livelihood. And so a lot of times what then some people will reach for is some kind of self-medication. Could be part of the reason why there's alcohol involved and maybe some risky behavior that leads to car crashes. I don't know. I wasn't with him.
Right. Right. But
Purely
it's true, but it,
speculation
right. Right.
from my own experience, by the
Right.
way, of
Yeah.
my own destructive behaviors. And what it was doing, it was just masking pain, whether it was mental pain or physical pain. But again, understanding why the brain's giving you pain is paramount. And then what I do is we go find the threat. We got to go find the reason that your brain feels unsafe in the world. And a lot of times with athletes, that is something going on above the neck. And when I say above the neck, I actually don't mean your mindset. Because mindset is also an output from your brain.
Right.
Like positive thinking, try to have
That's
positive
okay.
thinking when you're in deep, deep pain. It doesn't work very
Right.
well, right? But if we can change the inputs, if we can make, I call it your baby brain, naturally because I got a bunch of babies around me all the time. But they don't have frontal lobes to like inhibit that area. They're just like purely on emotion.
Right.
I feel hungry. Ah, give me food. If I can calm that baby brain in your son, in Tiger Woods, in you, in me, then I have a way better chance of
Right.
using this frontal lobe and making good decisions and getting into flow states. Because if we're stuck in survival, there's no way to mindset my way out of that. So, what do we do to calm a baby? You rock it, you soothe it, you give it some humming, you make
Right.
it feel safe.
Right.
Same thing with an adult. So if I can work above the neck to give it better vestibular function so it feels more grounded to the earth, if I can fix your breathing so you're calmer, if I can move your body in ways that makes your brain feel more safe to move around the world, if I can fix your eyes so that they're actually moving better and working together instead of like wonky, which is so common, by the way, then I can remove some of the threat and your brain doesn't give you pain anymore. It doesn't need to. So
Right.
that's the first step. And then we just chase flow states from there.
Oh my God. Well, I think it's so fascinating because there's so many people that we know that are either in that living with chronic pain, they have so many things, or in some cases have experienced what you've experienced, which maybe not to the same level, but they've had this great success young, and then what, right? It's the then, like,
Yeah.
how do I keep going? So I love what you're doing. How can our listeners find more about what you're doing and maybe tap into all the greatness that you're offering?
Yeah. So right now I'm really keen on the 21-day program, 21-day breakout program that I've put together, which is kind of my way of taking what I do with my one-on-one clients, which is very individual and precise, and offering it to a bigger audience. So taking the best of the best tools from applied neurology, um, and pain relief in order to get somebody out of pain and into momentum to chase flow states. So that's what the 21 days is built on. Quick, actionable, like daily things that you can do, boom, 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 to get you into momentum. I'm loving that program right now, and it's kicking ass. People are loving it. So that's the easiest and best way to get started. And then, of course, you can head to my website at evolvedathlete.coach. Check out that program. Check out other ways that you can work with me by joining my free community, or you can just check me out on Instagram at I am Brandon Day, one word, to see what I'm up to over there. Those are my top spots that I hang out.
That's awesome. And so the 21-day challenge, is that free or paid?
That's paid. Yep.
Okay.
You can join the free community, and on my website as well, there's a
Yeah.
free like pain relief switch tool. It's like a quick 10-minute like top 3 neuro drills that do the most to get somebody out of pain. So that's a great place to start if you want to just experience what neuro can do before you jump into the full-on program.
Awesome. Well, listeners, do me the favor. Go and connect with Brandon. He's absolutely amazing, and what he's doing is just fantastic and life-changing. Do me another favor and hit subscribe and share this episode with other people that you know could use to hear Brandon. And lastly, go to his free community. I'm going to put all of the links into the show notes, but go to the community and connect there and then take advantage of his 21-day challenge. I mean, it's so important. And Brandon, thank you so much for being a guest on Unstoppable Success. And listeners,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Jaclyn.
for listening. And I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm Jaclyn Strominger, and I want to invite you to join the Unstoppable Success community on School. You can go to Unstoppable Success at school-9143 and join us. In this community, you will get daily tips so that you can be unstoppable, and you'll also connect with other leaders and professionals who are also aiming for their unstoppable success and are there to help you succeed. So join us in the community. We can't wait to see you on School.